There is a truth most people are afraid to face, not because it is complicated, not because it is hidden, but because it demands responsibility. Ancient Gnostic teachings describe humanity in three categories. Three types of people walking on the same earth, breathing the same air, living in the same world, yet experiencing completely different realities. And here is the uncomfortable part. One of these types will never escape. Let's begin. The first type described in Gnostic thought is the Hylic, the person completely identified with the material world, the visible world, the world of status, possessions, routines, and social approval. This individual does not necessarily lack intelligence, ambition, or capability. In fact, many Hylic individuals appear successful by society's standards. They may have careers, homes, recognition, and influence, but their entire identity is built on what is external, temporary, and fragile. The Hylic mind measures life through comparison. Who has more? Who looks better? Who earns more? Who receives more attention? Every decision is filtered through how it will be perceived. Validation becomes oxygen. Without applause, they feel invisible. Without approval, they feel unworthy. Their happiness depends on circumstances. If things go well, they feel powerful. If things fall apart, they feel destroyed. Their emotional state rises and falls with events they cannot fully control. Because of this, they are constantly anxious, constantly striving, constantly reacting. They chase security, yet never feel secure. They chase recognition, yet never feel recognized enough. The Hylic person rarely pauses to question deeper meaning. They do not ask, who am I beyond my role? They do not ask, what is consciousness? They do not ask, why do I react this way? Life becomes a cycle of consumption and distraction. Work, earn, spend, repeat. Scroll, compare, envy, repeat. Compete, impress, exhaust, repeat. Fear silently drives them. Fear of missing out, fear of being judged, fear of losing comfort, fear of being left behind. So they cling to routines, cling to social norms, cling to systems, even if those systems drain them. Stability feels safer than truth. Familiar discomfort feels better than unfamiliar growth. The Hylic mindset is deeply attached to identity labels, job titles, social class, appearance, possessions. These become shields. If those shields crack, their sense of self cracks with them because they never built an internal foundation, only an external one. Another defining trait is resistance to introspection. Reflection feels threatening. Silence feels uncomfortable. When the world becomes quiet, questions begin to surface, and those questions challenge everything they have built. So they stay busy. Noise becomes protection. Distraction becomes escape. They often follow trends without examining them. If society values wealth, they pursue wealth. If society values image, they pursue image. If society rewards conformity, they conform. Individual thought requires courage, and courage requires uncertainty. The Hylic prefers certainty, even if that certainty is limiting. This does not mean they are incapable of awakening. It means they have not chosen it, because awakening demands discomfort. It demands letting go of false identities. It demands questioning beliefs inherited from family culture and society. It demands humility, the willingness to admit, maybe I have been asleep. The Hylic person sees reality as fixed and unquestionable. This is just how life is. Everyone lives this way. It's normal, doll. These phrases protect the comfort zone, but comfort can become a cage when it prevents growth. And here is the deeper truth. The Hylic does not realize they are trapped. The prison is invisible because it is internal. It is built from assumptions, conditioning, and unexamined fears. As long as the external world continues to provide stimulation and distraction, the need for deeper awareness never rises. But reality eventually tests everyone. Loss, failure, heartbreak, uncertainty. These experiences shake the material foundation. For some, this shaking becomes awakening. For others, it becomes bitterness. The difference lies in willingness. The Hylic mind believes freedom comes from controlling the outside world, more money, more security, more influence. But true freedom begins inside, and until the focus shifts inward, the cycle continues. The material world is not the enemy. Attachment is. Possessions are not the problem. Identification is. Success is not the trap. Dependence on it for self-worth is. The Hylic is not condemned. They are simply unawakened. And awakening begins with one question, a question most are too distracted to ask. Is this all there is? The second type described in Gnostic thought is the psychic, the person who begins to awaken, begins to question, begins to sense that reality is deeper than what appears on the surface. This individual is no longer fully hypnotized by the material world, yet not fully free from it either. They live in the space between sleep and awareness, between conditioning and consciousness, between fear and freedom. The psychic mind feels discomfort where others feel normalcy. They notice contradictions in society. They sense manipulation in systems. They observe patterns in behavior, both in others and within themselves. Something inside them whispers, there is more than this. That whisper becomes curiosity, and curiosity becomes the beginning of awakening. Unlike the Hylic, the psychic person asks questions. Who am I beyond my job? Why do I react the way I do? Why do I seek approval? Why does success sometimes feel empty? They are not satisfied with surface-level answers. They read, they reflect, they explore philosophy, psychology, spirituality. They search for meaning beyond routine. But here is their struggle. They are divided. One part of them desires growth, depth, transformation. Another part still craves comfort, recognition, stability. They understand truth intellectually, yet emotionally they remain attached to old patterns. They want freedom, but they fear isolation. They want authenticity, but they fear rejection. This internal conflict creates tension. The psychic person often feels misunderstood. Conversations that once felt engaging now feel shallow. Activities that once felt exciting now feel empty. They may outgrow friendships, environments, even ambitions. Growth creates distance, and distance creates loneliness. They begin to see through illusions, yet they are still influenced by them. They recognize social validation as a trap, yet they still check for approval. They understand that comparison steals joy, yet they still compare. Awareness has arrived, but mastery has not, and that is completely natural. Awakening is not instant transformation. It is a process of peeling layers. Each layer removed reveals another belief to examine, another fear to confront, another attachment to release. The psychic mind oscillates, some days confident and clear, other days confused and doubtful. Doubt becomes a major theme. Am I overthinking? Am I becoming different? What does this feel uncomfortable? Doubt is not weakness. It is evidence of growth. When you question the world feels less solid. When old identities dissolve, you temporarily feel undefined. The psychic individual begins to value inner work. They reflect on childhood conditioning. They observe emotional triggers. They attempt to respond consciously rather than react impulsively. They learn that awareness of a pattern is the first step toward changing it. However, they also experience resistance. Growth demands letting go of familiar identities. And familiarity feels safe even when limiting. So sometimes they retreat. Sometimes they return to old habits. Sometimes they silence their inner voice just to feel normal again. But the inner voice does not disappear. It grows stronger. The psychic person cannot fully return to sleep. Once you have seen beyond illusion, you cannot unsee it. You may ignore it temporarily, but you know it is there. That awareness changes everything. Another defining trait is empathy. As consciousness expands, so does sensitivity. The psychic individual begins to understand that people act from wounds, from conditioning, from fear. Judgment slowly transforms into compassion. They realize that many are asleep, not evil. They also begin to understand personal responsibility. Instead of blaming circumstances entirely, they examine their responses. They realize that while they cannot control control everything externally. They can influence their perception, their mindset, their growth. This stage is powerful because it is a doorway. The psychic mind stands at the threshold between limitation and liberation. They have glimpsed the possibility of inner freedom. The only question is whether they will continue walking forward. Some stop here, comfortable with partial awareness. Others move deeper, willing to release attachments, willing to face discomfort, willing to transform fully. The psychic is not trapped, but not yet free. They are awakening, and awakening is messy, uncomfortable, beautiful, and necessary. Because before you rise, you must first realize you were asleep. The third type described in Gnostic understanding is the pneumatic, the awakened mind, the person who has moved beyond surface awareness and stepped into deep inner realization. This is not someone who claims superiority, not someone who boasts spiritual titles, not someone who performs enlightenment for attention. The pneumatic individual that is defined not by what they say, but by how they see. They see through illusion without becoming bitter. They understand the system without becoming enslaved by it. They live in the world, yet are no longer psychologically owned by it. The pneumatic person has confronted themselves, and that is the real initiation. They have examined their fears, their ego, their attachments, their wounds. They have faced uncomfortable truths about their identity. Instead of running from inner darkness, they studied it. Instead of blaming others for every pain, they reflected on their reactions. Instead of seeking constant validation, they cultivated internal stability. This is not a state achieved overnight. It is forged through reflection, discipline, emotional honesty, and courage. The pneumatic individual understands that freedom is not escape from reality, but mastery of perception within it. They are no longer controlled by trends, opinions, or external praise. Compliments do not inflate them. Criticism does not destroy them. They understand that both are temporary projections. Their self-worth is internally anchored, not externally negotiated. Unlike the Hylic, they do not measure life through possession. Unlike the psychic in transition, they are no longer divided within themselves. There is alignment between what they believe, what they say, and how they act. That alignment creates peace. The pneumatic mind sees life symbolically as well as literally. Events are not just events. Challenges are lessons. Conflict is feedback. Loss is transformation. They understand that growth often arrives disguised as discomfort. Fear may still arise, but it does not rule them. Emotions may still appear, but they are observed rather than obeyed blindly. The awakened person has created space between stimulus and response. In that space lies freedom. Another defining trait is detachment. Not coldness, not indifference, but healthy non-attachment. They love deeply, yet they do not cling. They pursue goals, yet they are not shattered by outcomes. They participate fully in life, yet they remember that everything external is temporary. This awareness removes desperation. When you know who you are beyond roles, beyond possessions, beyond titles, you stop chasing identity. You begin expressing it. The pneumatic individual does not need the crowd's agreement. They think independently. They question narratives. They remain curious, yet grounded. Silence no longer feels threatening. Solitude becomes strength. Reflection becomes nourishment. They also understand compassion at a deeper level. They recognize that many people are operating from unconscious patterns. Instead of reacting with anger to every ignorance, they respond with clarity. They choose their battles wisely. They conserve their energy. They protect their peace. Importantly, the awakened mind does not reject the material world entirely. They understand its function. Money is a tool, not identity. Success is an experience, not self-worth. Technology is a resource, not reality itself. They use the world without being used by it. They also accept uncertainty. Control is an illusion in many areas of life. The pneumatic person focuses on what can be mastered: thoughts, reactions, choices, discipline, awareness. Everything else is navigated with trust and adaptability. There is a quiet confidence in them, not loud, not arrogant, not attention seeking, just steady, stable, grounded. They no longer ask, how do I escape this reality? They ask, how do I elevate within it? And that shift changes everything, because true escape is not physical departure. It is psychological liberation. When perception shifts, reality transforms. When consciousness expands, limitations shrink. The pneumatic individual lives with intention, speaks with awareness, moves with purpose, and rests with peace. They are not perfect. They are conscious. And consciousness is the real freedom most people spend their entire lives unknowingly searching for. Now we arrive at the most uncomfortable truth of all. Among the three types described in Gnostic understanding, there is one that will never escape this reality. Not because they are cursed, not because they lack intelligence, not because freedom is denied to them, but because they refuse awareness. The one who will never escape is the person who chooses permanent unconsciousness. This is not about social status, education, wealth, or background. A person can be rid asleep, educated and unaware, powerful and internally imprisoned. The real prison is not physical walls. It is unexamined perception. Escape, in this context, does not mean leaving the planet, rejecting society, or abandoning responsibility. It means transcending psychological control. It means seeing beyond conditioning. It means recognizing manipulation, fear patterns, ego traps, and inherited beliefs, and deciding not to be ruled by them. The individual who never escapes is the one who refuses to question. They defend their limitations. They protect their illusions. They attack ideas that challenge their comfort. Growth requires humility, and humility requires admitting, maybe I do not know everything. For the permanently unconscious mind, that admission feels like weakness. So they cling tightly to certainty. Certainty feels safe, even if that certainty is built on fragile foundations. When life presents discomfort, failure, heartbreak, crisis, loss, these moments are invitations to reflect, to grow, to awaken. Some people use pain as a doorway. Others use pain as justification for bitterness. The one who never escapes blames endlessly. It is always the system, always the economy, always other people, always circumstances. While external factors do influence life, refusing to examine personal response keeps the mind trapped. Responsibility is frightening because responsibility means power, and power means accountability. There is also addiction to distraction. Endless entertainment, constant noise, surface conversations, shallow validation. Distraction prevents reflection. Reflection reveals truth. And truth demands change. So the unconscious mind chooses comfort over clarity. Comfort says, stay the same. Clarity says, transform. Comfort says, blend in. Clarity says, stand apart. But comfort says, this is just how life is. Clarity says, life is deeper than this. The one who never escapes avoids silence. Silence forces self-confrontation. In quiet moments, unresolved fears rise. In stillness, suppressed questions surface. So they fill every space with noise. They may even mock growth. They may ridicule introspection. They may label deeper thinking as unnecessary or unrealistic. But beneath that resistance often lies fear. Fear of losing identity, fear of losing control, fear of stepping into the unknown. And here's the paradox: the unknown is where freedom lives. The person who refuses awareness believes they are free because they can choose what to consume, what to buy, what to post, what to pursue. But if those choices are driven entirely by conditioning and unconscious impulses, are they truly free? Freedom is not the ability to act impulsively. Freedom is the ability to choose consciously. The tragedy is not that escape is impossible. The tragedy is that it is available, yet ignored. Every human being has the potential to awaken. Consciousness is not reserved for a select few. It is accessible through reflection, courage, discipline, and willingness. But willingness cannot be forced. It must be chosen. And that is why some never escape. Because awakening begins with a decision to question, a decision to examine, a decision to grow beyond comfort. Reality becomes a prison only when perception remains asleep. The door is unlocked. The key is awareness. But if someone refuses to pick up the key, the cage remains. In the end, destiny is not determined by external circumstance. It is shaped by internal choice. The question is not whether escape exists. The question is whether you are willing to wake up. At the end of this reflection, one truth stands clear. These three types are not separate species of people. They are stages of consciousness. They are levels of awareness. They are mirrors. The Hylic lives fully identified with the external world. The psychic begins to question and awaken. The pneumatic transcends and masters perception. But here is the deeper realization: every human being carries all three within them. There are moments when you operate from comfort and conditioning. There are moments when you question and seek growth. There are moments when you respond with clarity and consciousness. The real difference is not where you start. It is whether you choose to evolve. Escaping this reality does not mean disappearing from it. It means seeing through it. It means understanding that your thoughts can either imprison you or liberate you. It means recognizing that awareness is power. No one is permanently trapped, except the one who refuses to look within. Growth is uncomfortable. Awakening is disruptive. Transformation demands courage. But the alternative is unconscious repetition, living the same patterns, the same fears, the same limitations over and over again. You were not born just to consume, compare, compete, and conform. You were born with the capacity to think deeply, to reflect honestly, to rise consciously. The door is not locked. The question is simple yet profound. Will you remain asleep in a familiar cage? Or will you awaken and realize the cage was never as solid as you believed? The choice, as always, is yours.